On this episode of the Late Night Startup Show, we were speaking with John and Wes of Figure and Ground, a photography project dedicated to promoting Atlanta creatives. But first, we'd like to thank our sponsors, RCR Video Marketing Group, an Atlanta-based multifaceted video production company creating compelling content to fast forward your business, and Digits in Motion. Digits in Motion is a full-stack digital agency, and I mean full stack. They can help you augment your current staff for a big project or help you build a product from the ground up. Rob and his team are great at building websites and apps and just anything in that type of space. If you need help growing your business, contact Digits in Motion today. Now let's get into the great conversation that we had with John and Wes. Guys, thank you for joining us on the podcast. I've been following your work, and obviously, you know, what I do for a living is visual with like cinematography and stuff. So anytime I see someone using their skills like you, Wes, as a photographer, to promote and advertise local creatives and stuff, I think it's awesome what you guys are doing, and all of your stuff looks great. And we were kind of chatting beforehand, like we come into these locations, don't really know what we're walking into. Yeah. We just kind of set up like that. And you guys experience that as well. But I want to go back to like when this became an idea. How did the Figure and Ground even come up in your head? What did your guys' partnership look like at the beginning? Just tell us a little bit about the history of Figure and Ground.
So our partnership started out by being neighbors. So we're actually in my apartment right now, and Wes lives in the building across the parking lot. And we were neighbors actually for about 2 years and never really spoke, you know, hey there, you know, whatnot. So we were walking our dogs one day and we just started talking, and I said, hey man, what do you do? What's your deal? And he said, I'm a photographer. And I said, let me see your work. Do you have a website? And he did. And I looked at his work, and you know, as soon as I saw it, I was like, man, this dude's good. Yeah. I said, what are you doing? You know, and he's like, I just take pictures. I'm like, are you working with anybody? Are you doing anything? And he wasn't. And I said, hey, give me a few months here and let's start working. So, you know, just over dog walks in the parking lot and, you know, beers after 5 and, you know, sitting out on our patio there, we just started talking. And really, we were like, hey, I feel like doing this. And Wes had his ideas, and we just kind of went back and forth on that. And I'll let Wes kind of explain, you know, how we created that though.
Yeah, I had always wanted to be a part of the community, the art community in Atlanta in general. And I'm always, you know, I've always been introverted and shy, so I've never really put myself out there. Mm-hmm. And when I met John, you know, I felt like it was a good way to get my foot in the door, but also help out and, you know, help other people become, you know, part of the community as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so.
Well, with being a photographer though, does being more introverted get in the way sometimes?
Yeah, it's also good though, because it helps me. Like I love to take photographs of strangers in my free time. Mm-hmm. So it's a good way to get over that fear of talking to someone I don't know or approach. And, but yeah, it helps a lot. But when I'm with him, it's usually pretty easy because he takes the heat off of me, so I can let him do his thing and then interject whenever I need to. So
I remember doing photography for weddings, like when I first started out. It was just a way to make like $500 a weekend or whatever. And we would have to do all the family pictures, and everyone would be lined up. They wanted grandma in, get grandma out, get the other grandma in, and all this stuff. And like just having to like control that and direct that chaos that's happening. Yeah, I like, this is not for me, because I'm a little more introverted as well. Like even doing this is kind of like I'm kind of getting used to it. Yeah, but I remember shooting weddings and just that I could shoot from a distance, the first kiss and all that stuff, no problem. But when it came to like all the family's pictures and all the different types of pictures you had to take, it was tough. Like just directing, like being up front and directing that.
Yeah, directing is, I have a little trouble with it sometimes when I'm behind the camera. Like if we have a shot set up and like I feel a little protected behind the camera, like a little more open and, you know, less introverted. Mm-hmm. So if I'm doing like, you know, an event or something where I'm just kind of walking around, then I'm fine. But
it's like your mask, you know?
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing about Figure and Ground, because when we first started it, you know, a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, a lot of scheduling, and a lot of people when we first started shooting were people that I knew, just creatives, just to kind of get it off the ground. I was like, hey, let's con a couple of my friends into doing this. And, we were just sitting there talking and having these conversations while Wes is, pulling the trigger on behind the camera.
Yeah.
And that's actually helped create a lot of, I guess, the look for Figure and Ground, because we get comments a lot that, man, your pictures look so natural. Mm-hmm. But a part of that is because Wes is doing his thing and we're just sitting there having a conversation.
Yeah.
And so Wes is able to get these really candid, portraits and headshots where in a lot of cases, as far as I know, you don't really have a lot of kind of candid moments in that kind of photography. So it works really well as a partnership. We're very yin and yang, and we have both definitely have different strengths and different weaknesses.
Yeah.
And so I think a true partnership and a solid one is one where you complement each other. Mm. And so we've been able to do that over the last couple of years. And, I was counting the other day, I think we've done over 70 sets now, which is insane. And the one thing that's
2016.
Since 2000, we started January of 2017. Okay. And so we're about a year and a half in now, but we started the project probably about 2 years ago and really worked on it behind the scenes.
You mentioned building Figure and Ground and getting it off the ground.
Yeah.
What did that look like? Did you guys do a lot of sets for free, or what was the process of getting it off the ground?
Well, that's actually the nature of Figure and Ground. So what we do is that we pick a creative person in Atlanta each week, and we take their picture. We do 4 sets, and we give them all of the content for free. It's a value add. So anything that we do that you see posted on the website, that is curated by us. We sit down, we have a conversation, we go through, we pick people that we like, we reach out, and then we set up a time and a date to go and do that. And then we have 4 sets per person. So when you go on the site, you'll see 12 different pictures, 3 from each set, and then we give it away. So I think that was really the main thing about it that made it attractive to people. They're like, what's the catch? I think when we first started, a lot of people were like, so you're just going to give me all of these? We can have these? And we're like, yeah. And then can I do whatever I want with them? We're like, yeah. Just take it. And I told Wes, I said, hey, if we do this for a solid year, I guarantee, we'll start getting people to hire us.
Yeah.
And then they did. And it worked out. And, and with Wes's career, I mean, I feel like I've watched your career take off as a photographer a lot over the last 2 years.
Yeah, I wasn't getting any work before, so it's nice to have some relatively steady gigs coming in.
I mean, you were in Travel and Leisure.
Yeah,
I've got it sitting over there on the counter. I might have to bust it out a little bit later. Yeah, when did you shoot in Travel and Leisure?
I think it was August of. Oh God, it was it last August? I guess so. It feels longer.
I can check the cover.
Yeah,
and see.
And it was in the September issue or something. But
so not only did doing photo shoots for creatives in Atlanta for free help build Figure and Ground to get hired, but it's also helped you as an individual photographer do more shoots as well.
Yeah, because go ahead.
No.
I was just gonna say, because all I've ever wanted to do is shoot. I've been taking photographs since I was 16, 32 now. Yeah. So I love everything about it. And so yeah, it's been nice to actually make some money on it, but it's not the most important part of why we do this. So
totally.
I don't know about you, man. I mean, I just want to build an empire for Figure and Ground.
Yeah.
Just kidding. But it is fun though. We have been playing around with a lot of different ideas for Figure and Ground that we this year we started releasing articles. Okay. And so we have a great writer, Laura Relier, who actually used to be the executive editor of Arts ATL magazine.
Okay.
But she's a good friend of mine, and she just does these articles for us or interviews for us freelance. And she actually lives up in Indiana right now. So yeah, we messed around with we've done some video, and we've got more video in the future. And we're just kind of playing around with, how else can we, capture creatives in Atlanta, which is basically our tagline anyway. So it's just kind of a fun, evolving project. I don't think we'll ever actually have an empire. But
so
the DIY empire, maybe.
With the articles though, is it more just about putting out content? Or is it what do the articles look like? Just interviews with creatives?
Yeah, they're just a deeper look at the person that we're doing a photo shoot with. Okay. So it's anybody that gets interviewed, they have a photo shoot that goes along with it as well. So it's kind of just like a secondary piece of content. But I started out as a journalist probably about 8 to 10 years ago, and doing a similar project with a website called Purge ATL.
Okay.
That it's defunct now, but I had ended up becoming the editor with it, and I had worked with photographers on it. It was actually really photography heavy. So when Wes and I first started talking, my passion was that I really want to work with a photographer again. But a lot of photographers that I had known from the magazine, they had all moved on and gone on to do bigger and better things. But the cool thing about it was when they were shooting for that magazine, that also gave them more exposure to get bigger gigs and things like that. So when I met Wes, I was like, oh man, this guy is super talented. He's got nothing really going on his own other than outside of just taking portraits and doing his own stuff. So I thought, hey, that would be really cool to see if we could like replicate that, but just with like one photographer, but kind of simplify it even more where it's not always articles. But just do like the light Q&A, which Figure and Ground's got the Q&A for each picture when you're scrolling through on the website and on the Instagram account as well.
Where did the name Figure and Ground come from?
That's all Wes.
Yeah, so we were here one day thinking about names, and we ran through a few, and then I have one of my favorite photo books by a photographer, Richard Rinaldi, is entitled Figure and Ground. And so I suggested that, and we kind of did a little more research on, what it really means. But it's from this type of psychology, Gestalt psychology, which is basically a way of perceptually grouping your surroundings. And so figure, and I think everyone in here has probably seen that image where it's a black and white image and it looks like it could be either two faces or a vase. That's like the best example of Figure and Ground. So figure in for what we're doing, figure is our subject and ground being the background being Atlanta. So that's pretty much, I feel like it was like perfect for what we're doing. So
that's awesome.
It was interesting when he told me that name. I was like, I don't really know what that means, but it just sounds awesome. And then he explained it to me, and I was like, that is very awesome. And then there was a quote, and it was in an Alan Watts book. Was that
oh yeah.
There was this amazing quote in the the Age of Anxiety? What's the name of that book?
That's right. Is it up there?
It's on the shelf over there somewhere. But there was this really cool quote for this Alan Watts book, and Wes and I like to read a lot of like weird, like metaphysical, spiritual kind of things. And it really pertained to what we were doing. So it's just neat to see like have a name that means so much, and then it almost can evolve, you know. And but obviously Wes is the brains behind the operation, because I was just like, why don't we call it like Rad Dudes ATL, and like Photo Party USA? But those, we shot those down. So.
Figure and Ground sounds awesome.
But I mean, Rad Dudes USA, come on, man.
It sounds good too. Well, Figure and Ground reminds me of a coffee shop as well. Like
I can see that.
Yeah. So every time I hear it, I almost think coffee first. But
we both love coffee.
Yeah, so. Exactly.
That's a great idea. What if we started like
a coffee brand?
Yeah, like what if we started like a photography coffee shop? You
man.
come in, get your latte.
There you go.
Get your picture taken.
I actually got the paperwork. I'll need you to sign so I can get some
NDA on that.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. But me being a creative, I know, and I've been through the times to where you can be as creative as you want to be. You can make a photo or a video look phenomenal, but if you don't have the marketing skills or the business skills behind it, it's not going to go anywhere.
Right.
So no matter how great your pictures are, you guys have figured out how to expand and get some traction. I mean, you got 5,000 plus followers on Instagram right now, and I assume you're getting booked pretty regularly
definitely
right now with photography. But talk about how you marketed it. What was the first step into saying, should we only focus on Instagram, or should we do this or that? What did the marketing look like for you guys?
Yeah, so I'm actually a marketing consultant for a living. So and I'm addicted to projects.
Yeah,
I can't help it. It's just like my crack cocaine. It's like, how could you market this? And after doing a lot of different projects, I thought, in the conversations with Wes, I was like, man, how could you like market a photographer?
Mm-hmm.
Like, how could you do it? And I thought like, it'd be really cool if you had like a brand versus like a person. That would be an interesting thought. And it's not like I just created that. Like a lot of people do stuff like that. But okay, so you have the brand, you have the idea of what you want to shoot and how you potentially want to present it. But how do you get people to care? And that was the part of giving the photos away for free, because when you're marketing anything, people just want to always know, like, what's in it for me. And so, well, obviously, if we're taking your picture and giving it to you for free, that's what's in it for you. And so naturally what would happen is by changing the subjects out each week and featuring somebody new for, Monday through Friday, that person's going to get a lot of exposure for that week, but then they're also going to have a lot of opportunity throughout that week to share it with their own community and say, hey, I'm the feature on Figure and Ground this week. Go check these guys out. So with each person we shoot, we're actually touching base with a whole different community.
Yep.
Now, since it's Atlanta, there's a lot of overlap within like artists and creatives and whatnot. But, if you pick up, 25 to 50 new people that are just heard about you, maybe not even are following you on social media or anything like that, but they just know who you are. If you just do that consecutively and consistently over a year, which we did 52 shoots last year, you're just going to eventually get there.
Yeah.
So when we were talking, and I had worked on a lot of projects before that were not similar to this, but I just knew that you have to be consistent with it. I just told Wes, I said, hey man, if we just do this for a year, nobody's going to care for that first year. But after the first year, like, people will be like, oh yeah, I know who those guys are. And we saw that happen, and we saw that happen not only for Figure and Ground, but for Wes's personal shoots and things like that. And now when we're reaching out to people for, to say, hey, would you like to be featured? They typically know who we are, which that's a really cool thing, And so at the end of the day, honestly, our marketing plan is being kind and being generous. And that's with an attitude of love, not just for the city, but for our subjects to add value to their lives so they can further their careers. Because a lot of people can't afford, headshots and portraits all the time. So that's kind of where it comes back from. And when you give out good stuff and you have that kind of attitude and mindset, you'll always get it back in some form or fashion.
And I think it's important to say too, keeping that type of mindset within that first year is super important, because I mean, even with us growing the late night startup show, sometimes it's like, this one didn't get as many listens or as we had hoped, or we would go 3 weeks where just every episode we had lined up seems to be canceled for some reason.
Oh, that's annoying.
Someone gets booked on something, or what? I mean, and sometimes we're at fault because I'll schedule an episode and then I'll have a big video production come up and I have to be there for it.
Yeah.
All that to say, how important is it to stay kind of clear-headed, not get discouraged? I assume within that first year, you guys may have had some obstacles or questions, or you wanted to pivot a little bit because something happened. What did that first year look like?
It was actually, we didn't have many cancellations or reschedules or anything. Maybe a couple, but we took advantage of one day where someone bailed on us, I think for like the second time.
We had a second cancellation.
And so we were just like, well, let's try something different. So we set up in this apartment, John's apartment, we set up a black backdrop and did studio headshots. And he called up like 4 or 5 people who all had nothing going on at the moment. So, and we turned it into a series and just took advantage of the situation, like it was a miserable rainy day and we were kind of like, well, what do we do now? So
but that goes so much deeper though, because I feel like a lot of people would experience that cancellation for a second time and then immediately be like, well, what the hell am I going to do now? And like, let's pack up and go back to the drawing board, versus like what I heard is you guys just pivoted quickly.
We're just like, well, what else can we do? Like, doesn't really bring us down or anything. So
failure is a weird thing. I think about, like, somebody might consider that failure, like, oh, this person doesn't want to work with us, or this is happening. I look at failure as a learning curve, and as Wes was saying, as an opportunity. So okay, you hit a brick wall in this. Like, how do you pivot? Like, what's the next best idea that could potentially be a better idea? And if this person hadn't canceled on us, we wouldn't have focused in on this studio series, which we're going to do it like off and on. We're going to schedule certain days to be able to do it, but I think it's just staying positive. And I think when you're making art on any level, even with the business side of things, you have to, be artistic with that as well. That's another art form. That's you have to be creative with how you look at it, especially when you are, doing a startup kind of idea. You're like, hey, this isn't working. We know this is a good idea, so how do we fix it? And that's the fun thing. I mean, we've even if you go back to when Figure and Ground first started, even the way we do our sets is different now.
Yeah.
You know, we're always just evolving and changing. And if we run into a hiccup, we just pivot from there and figure out how do we do it, you know?
Yeah.
And I think it's fun. It's like the problem solving side of it. And especially when it's a passion project and you're doing it out of your own pocket because you love it.
Yeah.
Makes it a lot easier. You're just like, well, whatever, you know, like it's whatever we want it to be, it's ours. So
yeah. I was listening to another podcast about a month ago, and they mentioned people who work just a regular 9 to 5. They're in a big corporation, but they're problem solving. That is a creative industry. That is that is a creative job. People could see those 9 to 5ers who are sitting in a conference room all day just problem solving is not creative. You know, they work their 9 to 5 and go home. But really, you have to, even in a job that seems less creative, you have to be creative in order to jump those hurdles and solve those problems and all that. Which kind of segues to my next point. Is there a difference between freelancer and entrepreneur?
I don't necessarily think so.
No? Okay.
I don't know. I think when you're out there doing stuff, you know, it's like so you're doing freelance work. Now, I mean, did you mean like freelance in terms of like just being hired on as like a hired gun kind of thing?
Yeah. So let me be a little more specific, because I feel like you could get hired as a freelancer photographer for an event, and maybe you take the pictures and hand off the SD card or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, there's some people in our world in video production that they would get hired as just technicians, or get hired as the audio guy. And I think there's something to say about being a freelancer. You do have to kind of like market yourself and be in business for yourself, but that's not necessarily operating a business.
Yeah. I mean, it is like you're like your own business as like as a person, like you're the CEO of your life, so to speak. And so I am a freelancer, and you know, I get hired to do different things, but I guess the difference between being a freelancer and an entrepreneur is that a client hires me to do something and I do it and I give them my feedback and thoughts on it, and they say, well, I want it this way. I go, yes, sir, because you're writing the check. So, and then in terms of being an entrepreneur, you get to make all the decisions on it. So I mean, I would say that would be the difference for me.
Okay. That's just been a debate that I've bounced back and forth in my head is, you know, if you are a business owner that has a couple of employees or something like that, do you take the advice of someone who is a business owner / freelancer?
Yeah.
You know, because it is different. To me, it can be different depending on the industries.
Totally. I mean, I think when you're like the entrepreneur and it is your business, you know, you have sovereignty over your work.
Yeah.
Whereas a freelancer, you just kind of have to do what they want, which I used to get bothered by it. I would give advice to people and they'd say, well, I want to do it this way. And it would be like, well, I think this is a better way. But then I got to a point where I was like, hey man, you just got to let that go.
Yeah.
You know, they're hiring you for a service. That's their business. That's what they want to do. That's cool. And man, when I learned how to do that, my life just became a lot more peaceful.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, totally. So Wes, do you think a creative or a photographer needs a business partner to succeed or to handle the business side of things?
Not necessarily. I think there are people out there that, you know, can handle both. But for someone like me, because, you know, I had no idea how to get my stuff out there. You know, like I said, I'm really shy, so I wasn't going out and meeting people or going up to shows or anything like that. So I think it's kind of like right place, right time kind of thing for me. Meeting John, but
now you're in the club every weekend. I mean, he's just crazy. He's just ordering the Cristal and VIP.
Bottle service.
Yeah, man.
Nice. Broke out of the shell completely. Huh?
That's why we're dragging a little bit today. That's what we were doing last night. You know, I don't even know the name of that club.
That's great. Well, what's been the biggest challenge for Figuring Ground?
My biggest challenge is probably just like figuring out who I'm going to book next. You know, there's so many people, but we try to really keep it balanced.
Yeah.
And we really focus on being diverse because Atlanta's diverse. And, you know, as we try to capture Atlanta's creatives, we want to make sure that we show all of Atlanta. And that's a challenge. You know, I mean, sometimes you reach out to somebody, you're like, this would be really great. And sometimes they don't answer or respond. And you know, probably 95% of the people that we reach out to do. Yeah. So for me, from like my end of what I do at Figuring Ground, you know, just trying to keep that balanced and trying to make sure that we we're really showcasing Atlanta as it really is.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know. What's yours?
I mean, you pretty much hit the nail on the head. So
Yeah.
I feel like, that's probably our biggest challenge.
What about when we go shoot and we're, just like going to the different locations?
Oh God, trying to find something.
That's your biggest challenge.
Yeah. Trying to find like a background or, like a scene that I'm okay with that I feel like represents our subject appropriately.
Yeah.
And then I can get a little frustrated if I can't. It's like a problem solving.
Yeah.
So I try to just keep my head level and
and it's your work,
right?
So
and
it's like you're extra protective.
We've had talks about that too, where I'm just like, sorry for being so try to be like a control freak over some of this stuff, but I feel like my work represents me too. So
totally.
I want.
Well, off the heels of speaking of challenges, I feel like there's several people that could be in your shoes, a year or 2 years ago, where they're just now partnered with somebody getting their work out there. But I feel like in our industry, being video production and photography services, it's easy to feel like you just don't have the right equipment. Like you just need better equipment. Is that something that's important, or could you get your work out there by shooting on an iPhone or whatever?
You could. I think so, especially now with like the way camera phones are. But I mean, when we started, I think I didn't even have a full frame camera. I think I was in between. I had like a little Fuji X100, it's like a little travel camera. So, but I went out and bought one, and I didn't even think I had an on-camera flash. That was it. So I try to make the best of natural light anyways, which requires, almost nothing but a camera and a lens. So, and then slowly built up to light stands and strobes and all the other professional equipment. So
but you didn't need all of that right away.
No, and there are still like even shoots, like who did we shoot last? Anyways, where I don't even use like lighting or anything. So maybe a reflector or a diffuser, but
I know a guy that he spent about $18,000 on equipment.
Man,
but really had no idea how to work it or how to set up a shot or anything, and then. It's just a mindset that I don't really personally understand. Let me just buy it all and flip a switch, and it's all.
Not how it works. Yeah. I've heard people say that before, and it's just, I mean, if you're good at taking pictures, you can take a good picture with anything, really. So
there's not a debate, but just like a thought there I've read about, just about artists. The better the artist, the less stuff they need. And needing to hide behind a lot of equipment or things that make you feel fancy or, it depends on what you're in it for, really. And I think some people, they like the kind of the glitz and the glam of it all, to be like, hey, I'm a photographer, and look at all my expensive stuff. But if you're not creating things with it, then, what's the point? You could have one of those just like click and shoot cameras it doesn't really matter if you're not using it at all. And I think that's what's been fun about this is I think we add things to our equipment and to our website and to our repertoire, so to speak, as we need it, and because when we first started out, he had a camera and I had a laptop, and, built the website and put things on Instagram and throw it out there. And we were very bare bones. And outside of your photography equipment, we've never really spent a whole lot of money on Figureground. I think the most money I've ever spent on Figureground outside of like buying the website was buying stickers and buttons for like free swag.
Put everywhere,
And I was like, oh god, this is like $200 because I did like a rush order before an event we shot.
And but mimosas.
Oh yeah, we buy a lot of mimosas. People, when you're doing these, we usually shoot on Sundays around noon, and sometimes people need a little liquid courage. And what better way than to use orange juice and champagne? So.
Yeah, we've had several interviews where people need a little liquid courage as well. They're set down and just clam up and stuff. Like, here, have
I feel like I should have had one, but
no,
I had great. 10 before you all got here, so I started drinking at like 6:30 this morning.
10 smokable, well, anything else you want to add to Figuring Ground? I mean, this whole series is all about those entrepreneurs that are still working their 9 to 5, and we want to inspire them to take the risk,
Yeah.
to make the jump into their own venture. And that doesn't necessarily mean leaving their 9 to 5.
Yeah.
It just means there are hours in the day to at least give it your best at bat. So anything you would say to speak into that a little bit?
I mean, I feel like if you really love it and it's really what you want to do, then don't quit and make time, even if it's like in the middle of the night. Like if you have the time, then do it. And I think it'll pay off if you stay positive and keep your mind on it. That's for sure. Manifest it. So
I think also with that is like in terms of like making time is I think we have so much time that is wasted. And I've actually pulled out a calculator. I'm like, all right, there's X amount of hours in a week.
And you're speaking as people in general.
People in general, yeah. And I've actually calculated it up, and I was like, well, I've got, outside of work and sleep and meals and all this other stuff, I was like, I've got like 200 hours like to do things. I don't know. I mean, I have to like tally it up. I need to write this down to be able to like quote it from memory. But I think, yeah, it's just making time. And if you only took an hour a day to pursue a passion, whether it's photography or painting or starting any kind of business, or just an hour a day, just start there. And that's 7 hours a week, and you just do that. I think, and just being consistent, that's the main thing, and creating community, because you need people. We all need people to grow. Wes and I need each other to create Figure and Ground, to do it right. We need subjects to shoot. We need an audience. We all need community. So if you can create community, I think that it'll make your project or your business even more successful.
Yeah. That's a super good point, because, everyone can post pictures and videos on Instagram and put all the right hashtags in place, and you may get thousands of likes.
Yeah.
But if those don't at some point become sales, or if they don't create that community, and you don't interact with that community, then what are you really doing? Do you guys only put pictures on Instagram, or do you have Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff too?
Facebook, we have our own website, figureandgroundatl.com. Facebook, Instagram. That's it, right?
Yeah, we have a YouTube channel that has like one video on it, because as we've been playing with video, we've only done one video release, and that was with Hannah and the Cosmos, which is our video series is called Memoirs, and our video series of one currently. Yeah. But hey, we're gonna get there. We'll get back around to it. But we're Instagram, Facebook, website, and the one YouTube video.
Okay. Yeah. And so all of those are geared towards creating this Figure and Ground community that people can come around. The reason I think it's an interesting conversation is because, like I said, it's so easy just to say, well, social media is free marketing, and market on social media, buy ads. But talking to you guys, and then I actually Ray Geyer, Squishy Puss, was painting off of Ponce de Leon. He was doing some big wall painting, and I just ran up and I was like, "Hey man, how's it going?" and all that stuff. And we spent like 30 minutes talking about community.
Yeah.
And because it was right shortly after his birthday party that he had. I don't know if you guys went to.
We actually had a photo booth at the birthday party.
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. I was there for like 10 minutes, but yeah. So I talked to Ray about his community and like his focus on building a community, and how we could take that same concept into the Late Night Startup Show and make a community around it. I don't know. I just think there's something to say about, turning the Instagram likes and the followers and all that into something bigger. Yeah. Something that people can come around and feel a part of a community, which is why I love you guys, creating that around creatives in Atlanta. Totally. I think it's super awesome. You. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. I think with people, we all want to be a part of something. Mm-hmm. We all want to be a part of a family, and we all want to, that's why you have sports, and I think even religion, and even, even if you're not playing a sport, like I'm a Braves fan, and then you're like, well, I'm family with other Braves fans, and we all want that. Yeah. And we all we weren't created to be alone. And I think that any way that you can help create that, it alleviates loneliness. Yeah. I think it was Kurt Vonnegut had a really good quote about it. He says, hey, if you're going to do anything like awesome with your life, I'm paraphrasing here, he didn't say awesome, but if you're going to do anything awesome with your life, if you want to do something impactful, create communities so people don't feel lonely. Yeah. And I remember reading that and I was like, man, that's impressive, because we all feel lonely from time to time. And if you can create communities of creativity and love and passion and furthering each other on and, spurring each other on to do rad stuff. Like, man, doesn't get much better than that, Yeah. So it's cool to hear that other people are seeing in that way. And we're just really grateful that, that people are taking to it and they enjoy it, and that we're able to help highlight this community and add value to the artists and other creatives that just make it so great.
Yeah. What's next for you guys? 5-year plan.
You gonna start that coffee shop?
5 years. Yeah. I know, that's not a bad idea.
I don't know, what do you got going on in 5 years, Wes?
Oh God, I don't know. I don't look that far into the future. Try not to.
Yeah.
Just try to stay in the present day. But I mean, we have in August we're going up to Kentucky for this little thing we're gonna do, little project.
It's not a little thing, Wes. This is a big thing.
Okay, it's a big thing.
The modest guy.
We're gonna go shoot my family's family reunion. And I'm estranged to them. I haven't seen most of them in 20 years. And but I'm going to write a story about my family. They founded they settled on a mountain in Kentucky in the early 1900s, and now it's a state park. And so I just thought it'd be really cool to go up there and interview my grandma, my mother, and some other people about the history of our family, because I always heard all these different stories, but there's not a lot of it on the internet. I mean, you can look up the Hensley settlement and it's there. But so I had this idea to write it, and I said, "Hey, Wes, what do you think about this in terms of like shooting photography and video for it?" And he was like, "Yes, I am in." So we've got that. We've also been talking about doing some more editorial kind of work for Figuring Ground. We're rolling that idea around in our head and how that might look, and if it's something that would be Figuring Ground, or if it'd be something that would be like an offshoot or a sister site to it,
without straying too far from what we're doing now. Because we really, we love it and love what we're putting out there, and so just looking for different things to do, but at the same time not changing the whole thing entirely. So.
And making sure it fits the core kind of community that you guys are creating.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's everything that we do will always be telling someone's story, most likely. I think that's the one thing that we really do well, even on a minimalist level of here's a photo and here's a quick Q&A. It's just, it gives you that snapshot, and probably I think with that being the most minimal way to start, I think anything that we do will just tell a bigger story as we go forward.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, where can people who may not know about you guys in Atlanta find you guys? Website, Instagram? Just give us everything that you have.
I think it's just Figuring Ground ATL.
Okay.
Everywhere.
Yeah,
just Figure and Ground ATL.
Yeah. Instagram, Facebook, and .com. So.
Okay. Perfect.
Check us out.
Yeah. Well, I gotta say, I look forward to every new post that you guys put up, because each visual is different. Like you going into these different places, and like I can relate to the struggle of trying to find the background, because I'm a cinematographer. That's what I mainly do, and I really appreciate the amount of effort that you guys are putting into promoting local creatives and giving them this platform to promote themselves on, but also be engaged in the community. That's exactly what we're trying to do here, is a community of entrepreneurs in Atlanta, and really just say that you can do it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. You can do anything you put your mind to. And I know it sounds cheesy, but it's
true. I mean,
it is true. It's like the Henry Ford quote, like whether you think you can or you think you can't, like you're right.
Yeah.
If you tell yourself you can't do it, then you can't do it. But if you tell
Well, I think one of the most true and biggest marketing slogans is Nike. Just do it.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you start doing anything, you're going to learn more. Mm-hmm. You're going to fail more, which is great. You know, that to me, it's a positive, because you can learn more from it. And you just never know where it's going to go.
It's like that 10,000 hour rule.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to put in the time to get there. But anyway, I could talk all day.
Yeah, man.
But I appreciate you guys coming onto the show.
Yeah, and thank you.
Really love what you guys are doing.
Thanks, man. I actually have a question for you. When are we going to do your Figuring Ground shoot?
Let's do it.
All right, let's wrap this thing up. Let's go outside.
Yeah, exactly. Whenever, man. I'm down.
We'll book you before you leave.
Perfect.
All right. Cool.